Do you know what a strong force for change is? That's called education. No one can overstate the value and importance of education in a person's life. This is true not only for the individual but also for the growth of a country and the world. Education lets you learn from other people's experiences and mistakes, so you don't have to make the same yourself or waste time, money, and energy. It helps us figure out how the world works, why things happen the way they do, and what can be done about it. It also teaches us how to think critically, which helps us solve problems instead of just whining about them or complaining. Our guest today is an educator born in the Dominican Republic who worked hard to get into the New York school system. He has been a teacher for 26 years. And for the last 16 years, he has taught math at Driftwood Middle School in South Florida. And I hope this conversation will inspire our young listeners to fight for their dreams and goals in life. Please help me welcome Mr. Francisco Vargas. Hello. Thank you so much for being here again. I have a very interesting conversation for you. This is, you would not think, I'm sure you can guess, but this is a person that can be very influential in a lot of people's life, especially people that come into the construction industry, of course. And he touches so many lives. And I believe the topic or the industry that he represents is very impactful to many industries, and especially construction. Obviously, we're focusing on construction. So I really want you to welcome Francisco Vargas to our podcast. He's an educator. He's actually a professional in accounting professional by trade, but his master's chose to go into education, and it's been in it for almost 30 years. So Francisco, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, and I want to welcome you to Thriving in Construction, the podcast.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you very much for having me here. But let me tell you something also. You are also an inspiration to me. When we met at that event in Miami, and when they were reading a little bit of your biography, I was so impressed. And I said, well, I have to meet this woman. And the first thing that I asked, is she Dominican? And she told me, no, yeah, she's Dominican. So, oh my God. Okay. And I approached you, you gave me your business card. And after that, we kept in touch. Thank you for having me here. You are an inspiration. I have 3 daughters. And let me tell you something, you are an inspiration for everyone. And in the future, I would like my daughter to be like you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure they're going to be, and they are already amazing women because we exemplify our parents.
Yes, they are.
So I am pretty sure, just like you, I'm curious because I asked you, and you came to New York from Dominican Republic already with an education, and you chose to go into education. Why did you do that?
Well, when I show up to New York, the expectation that people have when you immigrate to the United States, to in this case, to be specific, New York, they expect you to work in a building. They expect you to work in probably many other things that are not skillful professions. But I brought my foundings from Santo Domingo, from the Dominican Republic. So I said, I'm not gonna go and work in building, cleaning and stuff like that. I'm gonna go back to school. And I went back to school. I went back to Mercy College. Then I finished my master's degree there, and I applied for a position that was open. And by that time, they were looking a lot for science and mathematics teacher. So since I have a lot of credit in my bachelor, so it was easy for me to get into the education system. So I became a teacher in 1995 until now.
Mathematics, that makes sense. And then you told me that your mother also is in education.
My mom was in education for 45 years.
Wow.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, guess what? She was my teacher.
Yes.
She was all of us teachers there, because it was a small school in the southern part of the country, and that school, I remember, it was just a small school, 5 rooms, and she was a she was a second grade teacher, so we all had to go through there, and it was an amazing experience. My mom was my teacher too, and based on what she gave to the community, so I decided to become also to honor her, and become
A high school teacher, right?
middle school teacher.
Middle school.
Yes.
And Francisco, how many kids have you touched through the 28 years of service that you have had?
If we have every school year, we have an average of 115, 120 students. So if you multiply that by 28, will be almost 3,300 students. Yes.
Wow. And
Yes.
and I say that because I know people that teachers are mentors and they
Yes.
have the potential to empower or disempower a profession, a young person. In sometimes they hinder them to a point that some people cannot even get out of the situation where they
Right.
put themselves into. So or the teacher, they say something, they speak through their own limitations, they speak that onto the person, onto the kid. What is your modus operandi when you see
Well,
a child? And obviously what I'm saying is, and I want you to expand, there's all different kinds of kids, right?
Yes.
And you've been there for a long time, so I'm pretty sure you're very passionate. How do you see it?
We call that learning styles. Every kid has a learning. It's a specific way of learning, but it is something. It is you know how kids are. In a school, you're not only a teacher. I don't always or just teach math. You are the parent to those teachers. You are the brothers. You are the sisters. You are the grandparents. You are the psychologist. You are everything, because they come to you in every single way with questions, and then you have to answer those questions the best of your abilities. But this is a great profession, because they come to you with a whole different type of problems, and you have to be there for them. And sometimes they tell me, Mr. Vargas, I wish you were my parents. Why don't you go one day to my house to talk to my parents, or why don't you invite me one day to your house so I could meet your kids, so I could meet your wife? But we have to go through a lot of guidelines that does not allow us to do certain things. If it was up to them, trust me, they'll be all in your house. But yes, it is great to have the opportunity to educate these kids. They're great. Sometimes, Patricia, we as looking at the situation that are happening right now, what is going on also on the street, sometimes we lose hope.
You mean we as a teacher?
No, as people, as regular people, people say, what is the future is going to be, because these kids don't want to do this, they don't want to do that, they don't do homework, they don't respect their parents, they don't respect the teachers. But it is very important that everyone know this is not a perfect world. We do have kids there that are really, really good. Not every kid is disrespectful. Not every kid wants to just drop out. There are a lot of kids that they have a lot of potential, and you have to be there for those kids. I just have the opportunity to go to the 8th grade prom to Orlando, to Universal, to be more specific. And we brought like a group of almost 100 students. And I was there, and I was looking at them in the bus outside the park. And those are beautiful kids. They are respectful. They are kids that really is worthwhile to invest on them.
Sometimes I think it's looking for love.
Yes, and I agree. I agree. We receive those kids every day in school, but what those kids are living in their environment is not, it's not easy. So the only way they feel safe is in the classroom.
Well, with a good teacher, because there's
Yes.
not everybody. There's all kinds of kids. There's all kinds of
Yes, it's like
professors.
it's like everything else. But one thing that I'm going to tell you is that the teachers we do a tremendous job. It's not easy to teach at this time,
Why is
but
that?
we're there because the limitation that we have from the school board, the limitation we have from the state, the limitation we have from the central government. You cannot right now like raise your voice to a kid. That sometimes when most of the time or all the time when you raise your voice to a kid, it's not because you want to hurt that kid. It's because you want to help that kid. But sometimes we are so limited that we cannot do those things. Therefore, it translates to the kid not having a good principles because we're not allowed to do certain things in the classroom, and that's why you see what you see outside.
Hmm. Can the can What are the biggest? Why do you think we have these situations happening in our school? Is so present. We just had this week mass shooting. There's a teenager. I mean,
Yes.
a child.
Yeah.
What
They
has
were
to
elementary
go?
school students.
What has to go through someone's head to basically take an arm gun,
Yes.
shoot your grandmother, and then go into a middle school, and I cannot even articulate what has to,
Yes. What goes through the mind of
yeah.
somebody like that? Well, let me tell you something. Yesterday, when I was in my classroom, I decided not to teach mathematics. I decided to talk to my students about what happened what happened the day before yesterday, and what has happened in other times. And I was telling them that it is very important that, and I use this word, the nest where you're coming from, the nest where you're coming from, meaning the home where you're coming from. The home education is 100% important to the growth of the kids. Some parents believe that they go to school to get an education. Yes, they do some specific skills, but the basic education has to come from home. There's
Absolutely.
nothing we can do about the generation, that generation that is 18, from 18 to 21. But I told my kids, listen, eventually you're going to have your own nest, meaning you're going to have your own household. Well, if you want to avoid that, what we have to do is to show, preach love and care to your nest. And if you do that in your nest, which is your household, then we're going to have a different generation. This is going to, you're not going to see this happening anymore. So it is coming from home. The most important thing for a kid is home, not school. In school, like I said before, we teach them some skills, but the real values are taught at home.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
We do have they actually do what they see us doing, not what we tell them, right?
Right. That is
And
correct.
that's stability at home is so important, and so important. And as a parent, teacher, we are required, I guess. To me, it's a responsibility to show up in the best beautiful state we can,
That is
a
right.
state of calm, connection, peace. That they're looking for safety,
Right.
and if they don't find it at home, then
It is difficult. It is painful to see because kids they tell you everything. The- they are amazing. They tell you everything, and I know that some kids are going through some difficult time at home, and the schools have the resources to deal with those type of students. However, they should be more effective.
I agree. And the other day I went to give a talk at a high school, and I saw it. I saw the lack of drive. I saw the boredom. I mean, it wasn't my talk. Someone else was there.
Right.
But I saw it's just the body language, right? And at the end, once we had got some participation, someone in the back room said, "Is there anything you can do to give this talk to the parents of these kids?"
Right.
And so what she understood is that the parents were in worse condition, and this happened like maybe 8 months ago.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer, maybe the pandemic, the fact that we people were in their homes, nobody could go out, fear was dominating, and the unknown of what could happen. A lot of people develop some type of maybe mental illness. And are you able to, the question is, what can we do? I mean, this is a youth.
Yes. We have, and that's such a good question. It is a very wide question. So, what we have in the school system are a lot of frustrated kids, because we believe, and I'm not gonna include myself, because I don't believe that. People believe, and when you're talking about people, mean the elected officials, superintendent, principals, they believe that every kid has to go to college. Sometimes they feel frustrated because they don't see themselves advancing. They don't see themselves going forward, moving forward. So what is it that they do? They translate that frustration to act, and they behave in a way that they're not supposed to. So what is it that we have to then teach the kids? Since we know, starting from the point that not every kid is going to go to college, because that is a given. We should look for alternate way to satisfy those kids. They might not know how to read well. They might not know how to do math well, but probably they are good. They know how to draw. They know how to deal with manual activities. So what do we do with those kids? Let's just do technical schools. Because in high school, basically, I mean, they know themselves. I'm not going to go anywhere, because they know some kids in high school, they don't know how to write. They don't know how to read.
Really?
Yes.
In high school?
In high school.
So how do they pass?
Well, that's something else. That is the system. That's the flaws of the system.
Wow.
And those kids, they just go home. You know what they do when they go home? Absolutely nothing. Now, those kids, they should be in a technical schools that I know for sure they're going to learn something. Probably something that they love. I have students that have been to my house to fix my air condition, and they are making really good money. I had this former student of mine that went to my house to fix my air. He was 21. He fixed it. And when we started talking, he told me that he was about to buy his first home at 21. Probably that was a kid that in high school just was a D school. Or probably most of his grades were probably F. And he came out from high school. So he knew he was not going to be a doctor. He was not going to be a lawyer. But guess what? He went to a technical school. He learned air conditioning. He got his state license. And guess what? He's a businessman now.
That's
so
awesome.
I believe we should look for those type of ways so the kids could just do something and be productive to society.
I couldn't agree with you more. And this is one of the reasons why I invited you, because
Thank you.
we have a foundation and we have a construction school initiative that we want our foundation to fund, because we know we need more trade people.
Right.
But there's people that are really, really skilled, and they could actually help us transform this industry, right? We need more. There's so much work, and if we could identify these kids when they're going to high school, and maybe I'm not saying don't graduate from high school, I'm saying have a degree that it's taking care of these basic subjects, and you at the same time are learning this while you're going straight school, right? Why don't we do that more
Well,
instead of having frustrated kids?
yes, yes, we have the ability to do that, but in order to do that, we need to uh, advocate that. We need to speak out. We need to tell our elected officials to do that. Some one way or another, they are not focusing on that. They're focusing on something else. But yes, we have to do that. We have to advocate for that. In we well, no, I miss something because you're not like in the education system. We also miss something bigger, way bigger than that. The frustration is that the kids that have learning disability. What do we do with the kids that have learning disability? What do we do with them? Because we know they're not going to go to college. Probably less than 1% of them. What do we do with those kids? Are those kids, when they finish high school, if they finish, what are they going to do? They're going to go home. And from there, they're not going to go anywhere. So what do we do with those kids? Let's teach them a skill so they can just be a normal citizen.
And happy. At the end of the day, I asked the people this question: what do you want?
Exactly.
And it's incredible that what makes you happy?
Right.
So many people, sometimes at an advanced age, it's the first time they have asked themselves that question.
That's right, because they're not exposed to those type of questions, and they're not exposed to several ways of route, several ways that they could just go. They just been taught one route.
One way.
Go to the classroom, try to pass those subjects. Sometimes they cannot do that. And then when they see that they cannot do that, they just drop out.
So and I agree with you. And a lot of it is without putting the responsibility on the government.
Right.
Or as an industry, the construction industry, I don't think we do enough to let people know what's possible and what's available. Meaning kids, more diversity, whether it's women. This industry, some people have an idea of what construction is, and it's just very limited in their heads. So you kids don't know what we can do. And yes, we need to have more trade school. And I'm pretty sure if the government officials or even the people in office partner with industry, especially at this time, it could be instrumental because we need a lot of people. Right. And like you said, mechanical, electrical, air conditioning, plumbing, that is crucial for our industry, and you can make a good amount of money.
That is correct. You now talking about construction, and not only construction but many other fields, they could just do through non-profit organizations such as the one you have, develop some after-school programs or create a space in the community where the kids could go and learn something. The fact of the matter is that not many to none companies do that.
I want to say that I have been in organizations that are in the construction industry, and I think they have tried, but sometimes, there's a little bit of bureaucracy and resistance, because if you have to have all these things resolved in the education. You need to have a partner in the education system in order for this to happen. Just because sometimes they have the money. And I tell you, for example, FIU created a program a few years ago where there's workforce development, basically teaching people how to do construction. Right. And I know there's entities that want to do it at the high school level, right? Before they even actually select. And so it's just a matter of wanting to do it.
Exactly. And of course, we have to pursue that. What can we do? We could just propose that to the school board. We could propose that to the mayor of your city, to the city commission, and try with combination with the collaboration of the city. We could just develop a program that I'm pretty sure they'd be willing to do that and work that project with you, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be successful.
And what? So you've been in the education system for 30 years, almost 30. What do you think? So you think if we had workforce development, there would be less kids with depression?
Yes, definitely. Kids, you have to keep them busy, but busy with something that they like. That will be a good step. You have to keep them out of the street. I when I'm doing my political activities, when I knock on doors, I saw my students from 8, 10 years ago. We as teachers, once we see a former student, the first thing we ask, how's school? Do you go to school? What are you doing? And it is sad when most of those kids tell me, Mr. Vargas, I never finished high school. I finished high school, but I never went to college. And they're just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And that is really sad.
Really?
Because those are good kids.
And that brings me to ask you to another question. And those kids, I would love for us to be able to have a way where they can actually maybe experience and explore construction,
Right.
because that's I'm telling
That
you,
is
it
great.
can
It's a
be
great
a
industry.
life-changing.
It's a great industry.
And so those kids, when you see them, when you say that, I can't comprehend. There is so much work out there,
Yeah.
and there's
They don't have skills.
we don't, but it's a teachable industry.
Exactly.
But even in that, how can you tell me people are just accepting being at home and kind of putting on hold their potential and their lives?
And I believe that your elected officials at the city level, they should care more about that, because they should know. You should know your constituents. You should know what they do. I know what is going on in my community. I see those kids there. So I know that I'm probably if I get an elected office, we have 2 community centers. I know I could open either one of those community centers. I could open a something so that they could come and learn some skills that will prepare them for the future. But it is, like I said, if you leave it to them, they're not going to do anything. You have to do with the adults. You have to have the intention. You have to have the love. You have to have the desire had to drive you to do something like that. If we ignore as adults, we ignore what is going on right now in our neighborhood, we're never going to have a better future. The future is going to be just the same.
No, we definitely can do that, right? So tell me about your childhood. How did you grow up? Did you come from a wealthy family? How was your upbringing?
No. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a farmer in the South Country side of the Dominican Republic. We immigrated to the capital because we were 7 brothers and sisters. We immigrated to the capital because where we lived, there was not higher grades for us anymore. So my mom and my dad, we bought a house in the capital. Now we were in a place where everyone have space in terms of education. Middle school, high school, university. My dad has to go back to farming because we depended like 100% on his work in terms of economics. So my mom was there. My dad was there. He used to come to bring us food like every single week. And then from there, all 7 of us, we went to school and we graduated.
And your father was a farmer?
He
Or
was
is a farmer?
He was a farmer. He's still alive though. But he doesn't farm anymore because my dad is 96 now.
Wow.
Yeah, but he's strong. Yes.
The physical activity keeps him strong.
That is correct. So that is correct. So yeah, we have like every in my house we have like every single type of
Profession.
professionals. Yes.
7 kids, right?
7 kids.
Wow.
We have chemical engineer too.
Wow.
So, yes.
And you came to the US, all of you, or just you?
Not just me. I went to New York in 1990, and like I told you before, I went back to school. I graduated my master's degree in 2004, and then Broward County Schools went to New York looking for professionals
Really?
in science and math because they had a shortage here. So I decided to move down here because I have 3 daughters. So at that time I thought New York was not, and still I believe that, was not the place for me to raise my 3 daughters.
To raise them?
Yes, and we came here. We came here in 2004, and we are still here, and I don't regret not even one bit to make that transition from New York to here.
And you went to Broward, right?
Yes, Broward County.
So how do you see, what's your take on the topic of diversity and inclusion?
Well, yes, that is something that we always talk about. That it is, and I'm going to go to the political part. Inclusion, diversity.
Well, let's discuss first in the education system that you
okay.
have.
In the education, well,
With the kids,
there's a lot of diversity. Yes, I mean, and everyone is treated the same way. It is Broward County School is very diverse, which it makes it really, really, exciting. We have students from all over the country. I mean, all over the world, Latin America, from here, African American. It is really good, and they get along, and they really adapt one to another. It's really great. Yeah.
So then you're saying that you wanted to discuss how do you see that in the political arena?
Yeah. No, because now I wasn't talking about students. I was talking about diversity in general.
Okay.
Inclusion. I'm going to tell you, in a community, you could be in numbers. You could have huge numbers, like specific communities, like Hispanics in Broward County. We are almost 25% of not people that live there, registered voters, but yet we don't have any political power because we're not going to discuss the reasons why. But the fact of the matter is that Hispanics, they don't like. No, I wouldn't say that they don't like. They don't vote most of the time. They don't go and vote. And why is that? Probably because they haven't developed the leadership, so for them to follow, and then have elected officials that they could say, okay, if that person made it, I can make it. And that's why besides that we are 25% of registered voters, we don't have the power that we should have.
So that could be a mindset situation, right? It's nothing, nobody's preventing you. And in a lot of ways, diversity and inclusion is not something that we determine our destiny, right?
But I believe that we as Hispanic, we should be more proactive. We should participate more. Because a community that doesn't have political power is not going to go anywhere. It's never going to have power.
It's probably a mindset thing, I guess.
And that's why we have to change it. That's why in 2012, I created this organization, which is called the Latino Vote. I'm the president and founder. The purpose of this organization is to promote the Hispanic participation in every election process. And we are going to make it little by little, but in order for us to be fully there, we have to have elected officials, Hispanic elected officials, that other Hispanics say, you know what, I believe that if they made it, I could make it. You organize better your community if we have elected officials, which in Broward County, we lack of that.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So going back to construction,
Uh-huh.
if you could use construction as a tool to empower your community, how would you do it?
Well, first of all, in order to make that improvement, we have to have minority-owned construction companies in the county. Through those companies, then we could create programs to teach the people some skills using construction. And again, I'm going to go back again to inclusion and diversity. We are very, very, very few Hispanic-owned companies have participation in the Broward County government. So how can you do that then if you are not there? In order for you to help your community, you have to be in a position that you could help them. But if you're not, it's going to be difficult. With that being said, we need to have more elected officials. So the elected official could just bring, of course, not because they are Hispanic, they will have to be qualified. To bring those qualified companies and be part of the economy of that county.
I mean, I guess that it's not impeded right now, but how do people, the opportunities available?
Yeah, and that is good that you said there. The opportunities are there, but how does that information get to you? How are you going to know that opportunities are there? You need a canal to let you know, Patricia, this opportunity here. Come and try.
Yeah. Well,
Come and bet for those opportunities. But if we don't have those channels, there's no way you're gonna know that those opportunities are there, because you know how it is.
It goes back to communication, right?
Exactly.
Communication. But little by little, I think, like you said, we're making progress.
Yes, we are making progress.
And
we have
not only with Hispanics.
We are working together with African American elected officials, with white elected officials, and they are willing to come on board and help us out. And so far they're being so good.
That's great. That's great. And what I like about that approach is that everyone is coming together for a common purpose. And I like that, which is really what diversity and inclusion, I think, in my opinion, is all about.
Yes.
To me, we're all one.
That is correct.
We're all one, and we're all connected. And maybe this is philosophical, but this is how I live my life.
Yes.
And it's not about exclusion. It's about bringing it together, talking about accepting our differences.
That is correct.
And just maximizing our potential and what we're good at. As a leader, and we were discussing this a little while ago. As a leader, if I'm a business owner, but I really want to, I look at everyone and I try to find what their talent is. Right. What is it that they're good at? What are they passionate about? What you just said about the kids. If you're not passionate about it, then don't do it.
That is correct.
Right? It's not. We should be able to have a little bit more flexibility. But when you're able to actually marry the mission that you have as a company or as a country or as an educator with the mission that the individual has for themselves and their own lives and what they're good at, then you have a win-win. We're all going in the same direction. Everyone is winning.
That is correct.
And I think a lot of times we just want to put everything in a box.
Your success is the community success.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yes.
Absolutely. So I never thought our podcast was going to be, but at the end, I want people to do whatever they think is good and how do they think they can contribute. And to me, this is a testament. I am about diversity and inclusion.
Definitely.
Not about limitation. And you know what? We're all. How do we support each other? How do we find similarities? And I'm pretty sure you have been impacting the world and the community with all these kids that you go every day to teach, 25, 28 years.
Right.
And let me tell you, if you think you can do it from another place, then I salute you.
That's what we're planning to.
This is all about inspiring to
expand our service
and to become.
That's right.
As much as we believe we can.
Thank you.
So it's not an easy task, but hey.
But if we have people such as yourself that inspire us, then it will be much easier.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Thriving in Construction, the podcast with Patricia Bonilla. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating or review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you have any suggestions or any related topics you would like us to tackle in our future episodes, feel free to comment down below. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week here in Thriving in Construction, the podcast.